But yeah, obviously, thank you all for coming along today. And for those of you who haven't had the pleasure already, I'm Hannah O'Leary, and I'm the Business Development Manager here at Zucha. And I hope you're all enjoying DrupalCon so far. And I know it's towards the end of the day, so I'll try and keep it a bit lively, and then we can all go home for some sangria. So in this session today, we are essentially going to be looking at how we can be best composing and preparing our pitch teams to maximize the chances of winning new business and ultimately growing the Drupal community through the acquisition of new clients. So, as we're sure we're all aware, the pitch is the make or break final hurdle of any procurement process. And it can be extremely frustrating when all the work has gone in to secure a new client and the pitch just unfortunately doesn't nail it on the day. So what we're hopefully going to cover here in this session today is looking at the common trip-ups, challenges, all that kind of thing when preparing your agency pitch to really go in and hopefully smash it on the day. So first we're going to be looking at Avengers Assemble, or should they? So who should we be bringing with us into the room and why? And then the classic teamwork makes the dream work, looking at then how we can be supporting that team to really go in and do their best, and ultimately staying on target. So looking at how we can best be communicating our offering to what can usually be a fairly diverse client team. So getting right into it with Avengers Assemble, or should they? And just a fair warning, it will be probably death by GIF by the end of this, so I get used to it. So looking at Avengers Assemble, so it's obviously fantastic when you have in your agency a sales team that can be fairly relied upon to give a presentation that is hopefully going to go in and wow the client on the day. But the risk this often brings is the client can be left thinking, well, the sales team were fantastic, they were convincing, but what about the team I'm actually going to be working with? Who are they? And even more importantly, can I actually be working with them? Or, to put it another way, you can bring out the Avengers if you have them, but that's not going to matter all that much to the client team if they aren't the team they're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. So it's commonly accepted that establishing trust is quite potentially one of the most effective ways of winning over a new client. And being perceived as almost hiding a delivery team but behind what can be quite a flashy sales team can ultimately be detrimental towards that goal. So looking at trust, and trust is going to be central to any successful pitch. And there will be two sides to the metaphorical trust coin here. And the first being that your prospective new client is going to struggle, or at least may struggle, to get excited about the solution you're putting in front of them if they don't trust and believe in the team that can deliver it. They have to trust the team as the ultimate foundation to any successful pitch. And we almost want to be even creating the impression that we're starting those first crucial steps of onboarding at the pitch. We're standing in front of the client before you've even won your contract and saying, look, we're already your team, here we are. On the other side of the promised trust coin is that we have to be trusting our team. And as much as we love to pretend the opposite standing here, they are the experts and not us. So whether it be the designers, developers, delivery managers in your team, we need to be giving them the opportunity to get out in front of the client as early as possible to communicate their offering and build confidence and rapport with client teams. It's also fairly important to note that this also serves as a demonstration of trust within your agency, and that we can hope that that trust will ultimately be reflected and absorbed by the client team themselves. Alongside this, gaining cross-team involvement early in the new business process is an effective tool in increasing buy-in into new business within the agency. This allows us to build confidence in, what new business is up to. With new business can be so often, operating behind that secret wall. And when the team have been involved in that procurement, that's going to set us up for success ultimately in the handover, reducing the risks of any bumps and uncertainties that can often damage the relationship before the contract has even had a fair chance of actually getting started. So ultimately, we warm up to people, not necessarily just agency names. And when we're working with people, there is nothing more important than making, establishing, and growing connections. And I really hope somebody in the room appreciates the nod to New York Times connections in the corner. So the reality is that we do make connections with the people who we feel reflect us the most. The client team attending the pitch is likely going to be from a diverse range of individuals across a range of skills, experience, expertise, and background. We have to make sure that we're reflecting that in our presentation team. This allows us to be viewed as immediately approachable and on the same wavelength as the client team that we're approaching. We should never really be underestimating the power of I really liked her, I feel like we could work together statement in a round of feedback. And this should really be coming as no surprise as, when we're talking to our delivery teams, they often say they're sometimes talking to clients more than their own family. So ultimately, it has to be someone that you can work with and not just something. To put it another way, when we're going into a pitch, we're almost playing a game of Married at First Sight. I can tell you that I have a friend who is incredibly smart, funny, charming, charismatic. Just imagine George Clooney or whoever you are into. And I can't imagine all of you are willing to rush down the aisle purely based on what I've just said, even if it is fairly convincing. You'd be far more likely to actually make that decision yourself after getting the chance to meet and speak and engage with the proverbial George Clooney's in question. To put it simply, if you have George Clooney's on your team and hopefully you're picturing someone within your agency, let them get a chance to meet them. So, teamwork makes the dream work. Now, hands up if you have never felt nervous and are always 100% confident whenever you walk into any agency client pitch. Yeah, exactly. So it's all of us. So pitch nerves, they're going to get to us all, and even more so when it's day one. And if there was a surefire way to reduce any feelings of stress or nervousness before giving a presentation, I really wish somebody had told me that before today. So, sorry, I have actually lost my spot, which is the problem when going fully analog. So we wouldn't expect a pitch to kick off smoothly, or even a presentation like this, without an onboarding phase, and the pitch should really be no different. In the real world, we're not always given the time that we need to prepare as much as we want for a number of reasons. So this is why it's all the more important to make sure we're getting the key information to individuals within our team as effectively as possible within that time we're given. Equally, individuals are going to be managing project responsibilities alongside any incoming pitch preparation. We need to be making sure we're working to fit into their calendars and not the other way around. A process that doesn't take this limitation into account is designed to fail. But with thorough documentation, flexible run-throughs, and baking adaptability into the pitch process, we allow people the opportunity to dip in and dip out of materials when they have time, and that's going to be key. Crucially, we have to be realistic about the availability people have in a busy agency environment. Take the time to hand over properly to each member of the pitch team, highlighting their roles and responsibilities for the day. And this even comes down to the Q&A, making sure we're aware of any questions that maybe we're expecting to pop up. And also looking at the key themes and making sure everyone knows who is responsible for asking incoming questions around each key theme. Strict rigidity can actually be a silent assassin in any pitch process. When we're given the team a strict script and preparation agenda to approach with no movement, we're not trusting on their ability to innovate and improve upon our response. Depending on the deck itself, it can be a fairly good idea to have maybe 3 to 4 points per section that really have to be communicated, and then allow the team to build around that with the support that they need. Then going back to the sheet I lost earlier. So sorry. Oh, we are getting there, I promise. Right, so tag team, as it so clearly says. Implementing a tag team approach is going to allow us to have individuals with varying levels of experience within our team to get the best of both worlds. This allows the client to have the experience of maybe getting to see and meet the people who they're going to be working with on the day-to-day, and allowing them to build up that early relationship that we discussed earlier. But with the support and backup of potentially a more experienced team member who's going to be there to really champion them. But that being said, even those with years of experience, they still need support. A mistake often made is assuming that just because we see someone as an expert, that they necessarily have that confidence in themselves. Working individually with each member of the team to encourage, support, and lend your time whenever it is asked is going to be crucial to smooth over any concerns. But the problem is that really a feeling of nerves, they come down to a feeling of pressure. And the best way to eliminate nerves is actually by trying to get at the root cause of the pressure. So making sure everyone feels like they have someone who's there to have their back is a great way to get involved in reducing that pressure. And ultimately, the individual who's responsible for sales within your team should be everyone's teammate. We should be thinking of them as the generalist who is there to step in should anyone stumble or fall on the day. By giving our time to all members of the pitch team at all times, this allows the space for experts within our team to offer solutions and changes that are going to increase the value of our presentation. And as often the final hurdle in any procurement process, many would argue that now the pitch is the time to go above and beyond client expectation. And I'm not going to stand here and argue that. We want the client to go home excited and infused by what we're able to provide. But a common mistake can actually be made because of this. In an effort to focus on the wow, it can be easy to forget the basics. When we're provided with a scoring criteria, we have to make sure that we hit it, even if it's going to be at the expense of the wow within a dedicated time limit. And this includes remembering who the client is and what their experience level is in delivering digital projects. And with the basics, this actually is where supporting the team is so important. So it's obviously great when you have team members who are infused and excited and ready to get on board to deliver the pitch. And new ideas that drive innovation have to be welcomed, but not at the expense of scoring criteria. When new ideas hit, we have to be asking ourselves, okay, what part of the specification are we targeting with this? DrupalCon and events of similar are going to be filled to the brim with exciting ideas and value add that we can use to get our clients really excited about Drupal. But we have to remember, for many clients, they're coming in completely fresh to maybe what Drupal is even all about. We're pitching to people. People have unique frustrations and experiences with their existing solution. We have to be tailoring what we say and how we say it to meet them where they're at. And once we're confident the specification has been met, now is the time to go above and beyond. If you go above and beyond too early, this actually runs the risk of going in the complete opposite direction. You can get a bullseye, but it's not going to count if it's not on target. And then moving on to language, and this is also pertinent in the language that we use. So obviously, it's often actually the techie teams who get the bad rap for using overcomplicated language and not explaining things in layman's terms. But this is actually advice that we should all be taking on board. The purpose of language ultimately is to communicate. It is to be understood. We might feel impressive in ourselves discussing abstract concepts such as synergy or project retrospectives, but what do we actually mean there, and what value does that bring to a client? When those buzzwords maybe don't even resonate and they can risk falling on deaf ears. Ensure your pitch team are aware of who they're speaking to and why they are there, and that's going to highlight the importance of communication. And this actually connects back to the original discussion on trust. Ultimately, you cannot be trusted if you are not understood. So, and finally, it does hurt me to say this with, I know, the hours that have gone into preparing proposal documentation and all the rest of it, but not everyone in that room is going to have read your submission. And that's no surprise. The client is going to be combing through what could be thousands of words in submission. And with every effort to make ourselves stand out, sometimes recapping isn't always a bad idea. Diving into slides of value add and exciting solutions is really going to fall on deaf ears if we haven't even covered the basics of what our submission and approach is actually going to be. And when that hasn't been fully understood, we cannot be trusted, and then the purpose of value add will fail. So, moving on to another metaphor to wrap up. But when we take this approach and these considerations into everything that we're doing, we can see ourselves more as the conductor of the orchestra rather than performing the music itself. And what I mean by this is it is the conductor's job to bring everybody together on the day, perfect the performance in the rehearsal, and help and shape the identity of the orchestra. They know what everybody should be doing and when, so you only have to focus on yourself and know that you can trust your team. By seeing ourselves as the conductor, we're able to platform the talent that exists within our teams that we have discussed and make sure that everyone is given the tools, time, resources that they need to be performing at their very best. Thank you. So please, any questions at all?
So I don't have a question to ask, but I have a perspective to share. Even in our sales process, in our at Accelerant, when we pitch, the pitch team does consist of delivery team members. There are developers, there are business analysts, there are project managers and technical analysts. So a lot of times the delivery team is not very comfortable going to a new person and start talking, start pitching, which is something that the sales team possesses. And you, in your slide, you spoke about the nervousness that comes with, and feeling like, do I know everything about the pitch? So what has helped me and my team personally in this situation is that if we are on the spot, if one of us is put on the spot, asked a question, we do not know the answer, then just say that I do not know it right now. I can come back and get back to you. That shows that because even in a project team, right, like you will not know everything right then. You will take your time, go figure what is the solution. So saying that in the pitch process also, it shows that you are not trying to be a know-it-all, answering every question. You can take the time to go back and then get back promptly to the customer with the solution or the answer to the question they were asking.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. I think that goes back to what is absolutely fundamental, which is trust, and also accepting that things do go wrong. I mean, I've stood here and stumbled over my own script in front of everybody, and that happens to all of us, and if it hasn't happened to you, maybe it will one day. And having that human empathy that we understand of you saying, no, I don't know the answer to your question, but I will get back to you. It means that you can really, establish that foundation of trust.
Yeah, and that really eases the pressure from everybody on the team that, you do not have to have all the answers right then. You can come back.
Hi, I'm JR from Simple Information in Washington, D.C. Just to follow up with what she was saying, I have learned that sometimes it's best to show them that you don't know, and then you establish that trust. I think, that's really important. But my question is, we're starting to offer some AI products, like probably a lot of people in this room are, and we come across what we call the AI fear factor. It's like, oh my God, AI is going to destroy mankind and we're not ready for it and we're going to wait and see. So just want to get your feedback and like how, you would handle that.
So, I mean, I feel like that's twofold, really, with looking at AI. And obviously there are concerns around that and they are going to crop up. But the first thing I would say is going back to that honesty. I think one of the clear things we need to be doing is making it clear when we are using AI, even if that is actually in the pitch process itself. Maybe to generate imagery or whatever we're using it for. And then beyond that, when we're going to be using it in the project process, also making that clear where it is used and where the value add is. So focusing more on the value rather than the, scary, spooky AI itself. And what we can be looking at there is always making sure that we're reinforcing to the client where the human involvement is going to be. So we're using AI to do this, but it's going to be working with a human in this way. So it's kind of a balance. And I think also just always demoing, getting solutions out there, giving a client a chance to get to grips with something and use it themselves. That's going to kind of reduce that feeling of fear of the unknown then, because, well, it becomes known. Front.
It's the last one. If it's,
Hi everyone, so thanks again for the great ideas and scenarios. So my question would be like, for someone like as myself who is in transitional sort of role, trying to also maybe figure out if one likes the sales or business development part of the work and also is on the client facing side. So what would you recommend to like have any practical tools or like things to use when, for example, pitching the client their services or like approaching to the new potential client?
So is that in terms of preparation yourself or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
like what things to pay attention or how to like brace yourself, or I don't know, not to come across too, I don't want to say needy or like too pushy maybe.
yeah, I mean, that's obviously a very large concern in sales, and I think it's shared by anyone in the position. If you do not want to be pushy, you don't want to be putting people off. But equally, we need to be getting information out of people that make sure that we're not wasting their time. And I think that's also a really good point when we're having the client conversations, phrasing it in less of a way of, oh, here's 101 questions, being careful about the questions that we're asking, thinking to yourself, okay, do we actually need this information now, or could it wait later? And then making those questions and phrasing them to the client the way of going, this is going to help me to not waste your time. Because a client team, I think we often forget because we get so wrapped up in our own presentation. They might be seeing 5, 6 presentations that day. And when you spend your time maybe talking about something off script, you're wasting their time in doing that. So phrasing it to them, we want to be making sure that in this 45-minute, 1 hour time slot that you've given us, that we're targeting all the things that you actually want to see from us. And not necessarily from a sales perspective, but from a time efficiency one. And thank you, everybody.